Welcome to the live show, preview show, Battle of the Birds, Seahawks versus Cardinals coming up tomorrow. So we're coming to you guys live, Q&A. We're going to break down this matchup. We're going to give you guys the key matchups, keys to the game, and then we're going to give you guys what we think is going to have to be a game changer on each side of the ball to get this job done tomorrow at home at Lumen. But before we get into all that, guys, if you're coming in live watching us, you haven't subbed yet, go down and hit the subscribe button for us. Like the videos, share the videos, all that stuff helps out the channel. And you can also buy us a coffee, another way to help donate to the channel, and everything is appreciated. So on the other side of the show, we're going to break it all down for you guys.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game.
And it's run. Get off me.
DK.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's John Schreiner with the Seattle Seahawks.
And Washington's got a lead. Leon Wilson with a catch.
Smith and Jigba. The Seahawks are going to host the NFC Championship.
Every year, the NFL does. Is it going to be another 9 and 8?
Players who've got to finish something.
They have to fix the offense.
Part of his success and part of
ambition of being the LOB one again. That's trading DK Metcalf.
Make him aggressive.
This is the HawksZone Rundown with Ryan and Bryce.
Guys, welcome back to the HawksZone. We're coming to you guys live. Make sure you guys get your comments, your questions down there. If you got some super chats, get them in there. We're gonna get to them right off the hop. But yeah, we're gonna break down this matchup, man. Bryce, huge game last week, coming off a huge win down in Santa Clara, gets us right back in the mix. And you and I talked about how this is, it's really a transition year, but we're still here to compete. And I think last week just showed that. We're bringing in some new guys, obviously. Ernest Jones at linebacker, Tyrese Knight now a starting linebacker, Kobe Bryant now looks like, a starting safety. All these young guys we see, Abe Lucas is back in the mix, but this division's in a transition. So it's interesting because even though we're transition, we're competing at the same time. It's not like this division just, took off from us and you got some team that's, 9-1 and we're just, okay, we're playing for next year. We're going to improve, play some young guys. We're right in this mix, man. So we got a huge game coming up tomorrow against a team that you and I talked about last year that was like, hey, this is a gritty team. They're in their own transition with Jonathan Gannon down there as head coach and changing that culture. And here's a team that if you talk to a lot of people down there, fans, they are a little surprised that now they are where they are this soon. They thought maybe that's going to be a next year thing, 2 years. We're sort of like that, but we're just, we're starting ours a year later. So this team, the Arizona Cardinals, coming into our house that, we're struggling at home, man. But yeah, so this is a big matchup, man. Why don't you talk about the Cardinals real quick? People that really maybe don't know much about them and stuff like that. What are some of their strengths? What are you looking at here with this squad coming into Lumen?
So the Cardinals are an interesting team this year. They've kind of bought into what Gannon's been selling. Their defense is playing really well. Their front seven's very good. Their back end's good with Buda Baker and the guys they've got. They've got a young, ascending secondary, kind of what Seattle's got in a lot of ways too. But the thing that's been the most interesting this year with me is the offense in Arizona isn't built to funnel everything through Kyler Murray like it's been in the past. They're using Connor. They're, setting things up. They really are making Kyler more of an additional piece, which I think is suiting Kyler's skills. They're not putting everything on his shoulders to go play hero ball. They've taken the approach of, hey, let's build a system that Kyler fits into perfectly, and we can still, accentuate his athleticism and his ability to make off-schedule plays, but it's not what we depend on. And so, it makes it really easy. Like I look at the grades here for Kyler as a quarterback, like, he's got, when he's clean in the pocket right now and he's got a clean, passing situation, he's a 101 passer. Like that's his rating right now, which is for Kyler, which is something he hasn't been a huge, component of. Even under pressure, he's a 99. Like the guy's just he's dealing right now. He's got a really good big time throw rate of 4.57. And this is the big key for me. His turnover worthy plays have dropped significantly. He's down to like a 2.13, which if we compare this to Geno, him and Geno are basically having a similar season. The only difference is when Geno's under pressure, which we all know has been quite frequently, his passer rating under pressure has dropped to a 50. But their big time throw rate's very similar. Their turnover worthy plays, they're really kind of having identical seasons this year. And that's not something I think a lot of people were expecting from Kyler Murray. And so, when I look across the board and I look at, the splits of their pass to run, and again, this is something that, I was really happy to see in the San Francisco game for Seattle, was our percentage of run to pass has gotten a little closer to being a more balanced attack. Like we used to be 75 to basically almost like 25 in Seattle to pass to run. This week it's come down a bit. We're in, 5% drop. So we're 68, a little bit more than 5, but basically roughly around that 70 mark for pass, 30 for run. So we're coming down. Ryan Grubb, I think, did some self-scouting in the bye week, found out we need a bit more balance. But then you look at the Cardinals team, they're basically almost a 50-50 split. And so it's going to make things really interesting, I should say, to see how this game goes. But the one thing Seattle, I think, has an advantage of is offensive snaps. Seattle's averaging 70s. The Cardinals are averaging 60. So if we can get more cracks at that apple this weekend, I think it sets us up for some pretty good success versus Arizona.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, you look at Kyler and like you said, just takes a lot of pressure off him a little bit. He came on last year at the second half of the year, coming off the injury. But yeah, you look at like James Conner, that running game and the offensive line is doing a good job down there. Talk about, James Conner is going to be, he's just a guy that just keeps going, like just refuses to go down, like just fights for everything. And, 697 yards on the year, 5 TDs. That's going to be, how do you see them going against it? You got, you're going to have obviously a slew of running. This is going to be another opportunity for a guy like Ernest Jones and those linebackers to really, really step up. And that's kind of where I'm feeling confident right now, because we're coming off 2 really good games of stopping the run, like really shut down San Francisco, nothing big. How do you see that? Is that maybe a key matchup you're seeing right now? Honor versus that front?
Yeah, it's going to be a key matchup. Connor, James Conner, he's really had a career kind of resurgence in Arizona. He kind of came out of Pittsburgh there. They didn't want him. The guy's gone through a lot, going into the draft process. He had ACL injuries at Pitt. He went through the whole battle with cancer, came out on the other side in, a good fashion. But the thing with James Conner is he is such a violent runner. Like he is going to come and smack you in the mouth. He isn't, these kind of, shifty guys. He is coming to meet you in the hole and impose his will on you. And so the one thing I will say is Seattle's run defense, you kind of, as much as Kyler's played well, the best way for Seattle to win this game is to put it all on Kyler Murray to be a throw it consistent, not have a run game to lean on, make Kyler try and beat you through the air. And I think Seattle can, but Seattle has to come with a workman attitude this week and come with some nastiness to be like, we're going to shut down James Conner. That's our priority. We got to shut down this run game and make Kyler try and beat us through the air. Because yes, the Cardinals have some weapons and Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's not to a point where I haven't seen the impact that I thought I was going to see from him in their passing game. McBride, their tight end, is by far one of the best tight ends in football. He, to me, is more of a threat in that passing game right now than Harrison. So it'll be interesting to see can Ernest Jones, can Tyrese Knight, and that front 7 really step up and, continue the kind of trend they've been on in shutting down the run. They did it last week to CMC and the 49ers. They did a really good job with Kyren Williams and the Rams. They got to come and do it another week against the Cardinals.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a key matchup for me is our offensive line versus their defensive line. I think with Abe Lucas, going to be back playing again, they're talking about how Scott Huff expects Abe to play 100% of the snaps. Obviously we talked about he was on a bit of a pitch count last week, and even if you watch that last drive, he was gassing. They were running up the line, and he was gassed. I mean, it's his first game back in over a year, right? So that's to be expected. They expect him to play, but they said they were surprised that they kept him. He exceeded the pitch count because, hey, he was playing well. So this week they expect him to play 100%. It's such a big boost, and we talk about Olu, right? Another guy that played great, zero pressure. So that's going to be a key matchup for me. If you can kind of see the same thing out of Olu, right? Just where it's like, because we saw that with, say, Jarrell, his first game, everyone's like, hey, maybe if Abe doesn't come back, here is our answer. You get a bit of a more of a sample size, and you say, hey, wait a second, this guy's still developing. He's still a young guy out of a Division II school. Let's not, jump the gun here where, so now you got Abe, you got Cross, you got Olu, you're feeling a little better there. So, how does that line hold up? And I think that's going to be a really key matchup, because then everything else can develop for us. Maybe the run game starts, happen a little more, the play action. And, I just think, because to your point, if we can jump out, get that quick early lead, and just kind of jump on the Cardinals a bit and try to put it a little more on Kyler, they're going to stick with the run. But, you get ahead a little too much or whatever, you kind of take away that run game a little bit. Now that falls more on Kyler. So that's going to be a key matchup for me to watch, especially how Olu kind of comes back and back-to-back weeks, see how he responds. Maybe hopefully it wasn't just a one-off, and it's like, hey, this might be a guy that can kind of anchor it down for a little bit.
Well, here's the key thing. So going into this game, the injury report really favors Seattle in a lot of ways. We're, basically Brady Russell's the only guy that's truly out, it sounds like.
Right.
George Fant's on IR. They said, or Mike McDonald said yesterday, they were going to activate Rayshon Jenkins. Now, I think Jenkins is coming back to play the role Kayvon Wallace did and Ty Okada did this last couple of weeks as that third safety in the big packages. I don't think he's coming back to his starting spot, taking over for Kobe Bryant, because, like you said earlier, Kobe Bryant has solidified himself as a starter opposite Julian Love. Those two back there, since they've been together, you've really seen a very energetic and high-flying defense secondary. Laviska Shenault should be back. D. Williams isn't even listed on the injury report. So I'll actually bring the injury report up right now on our screen so everyone can have a look at it. So I've got it kind of set up here. But it'll kind of lead you to believe how well Seattle's going into this game comparison to the Cardinals, which, the Cardinals are very banged up. So here you go. This is the Seahawk, kind of how the week ended out. You kind of saw, a lot of NIR rest days. But then you see game status. Brady Russell's the only guy that's out this week. Laviska Shenault, his back's questionable. From what it sounds like, he's going to play. So there's your return game with D. Williams. Noah Fant's coming back. But again, I don't know if you have to rush Noah Fant. If he goes through his pregame warmup and he's not 100%, I'm okay if they have to call up, another tight end. Maybe it's Mayberry. I know they let him go, but I think he reverted back to the practice squad, or they re-signed him to it. If not, I think they've got, N'Keal Harry there as another tight end that they can call up. And then AJ Barner, yes, he had a couple drops in this game, and that's something he's got to work on, but he's only a 22-year-old rookie who's actually played better than I think anybody expected coming out of camp. And I'm okay because he's a good blocker. Like, yes, he screwed up on the 1 4th down and short, and he definitely missed his assignment, but those are going to happen. But the overall play has been definitely a net positive for Seattle. So you got two guys that you're not really sure about if they're going to be the guys that are going to do it. And then when you look at the Cardinals, which, for the Cardinals this week, they're missing Darius Robinson potentially, who was their big draft pick. Xavier Thomas, their inside linebackers out. Or questionable, I should say. Jonah Williams, even on their O-line. Like, they've got some interior trench to linebacker issues, and even on their O-line they have issues with Jonah Williams being one of the guys that's out. Jalen Thompson is apparently out, which is one of their good safeties. So there's going to be opportunities for Seattle to take advantage. Now they have to take advantage, and this is again where what I saw rewatching the San Francisco game that I liked from Ryan Grubb was he got a little bit more under center. He got a little bit more dialed into that. And you could see it to start to pay some dividends on especially those crosser routes and stuff like that that really threaten safeties. and linebacker play in their zone coverage. He was able to exploit that with JSN, and that's something that we've seen the last 2 weeks kind of start to develop. That's something that needs to develop going forward, but you got to keep Ken Walker involved. Like, the thing for me, though, that's worrisome about our run game is I haven't seen the Charbonnet impact. We talked about it on our, I talked about it with Mookie Alexander on the Pulse of the Hawks show, but Charbonnet's got to become somewhat of a factor in the run game, and he's not. And I don't know if that's because the scheme that they're now leaning into does not suit his skill set as well, but they've got to find ways to somehow make him somewhat of a factor, because it can't just be K9 doing all the lifting and Charbonnet's in there on passing downs, and even then he's struggling, it seems. So we need to see Charbonnet start to pick it up, get back involved in this offense, and make some plays.
Yeah, no, it's been tough with him. He definitely has been disappointing, Sharp, and it's tough. I mean, I think because you look at what we, where we took him, right? We took him essentially where we took Ken, right? And he sort of, I think that sort of weighs on it, right? Like, if he was a 5th round pick or something like that, a 6th round pick, but we picked him in the 2nd round. So, there's way more expectations on the guy, and he's a different runner than Ken, but just hasn't had the impact. And it's been interesting too, because it's like the spots Ryan Grubb has put him in, and he just hasn't got it done. It's just now he's fallen under even a bigger microscope. Like, the last game against the Niners is the latest example where he couldn't gain an inch, right? And whether that was maybe Ryan Grubb again making that play too obvious, but at some point, like, you just got to will your way and show your worth and get that. That's why you're there. So yeah, I got to ask you too, like, I like when Gino's using his legs a little more. Like, I think we need to see more of that. People talk about, oh, he's not this mobile guy. Like, yeah, he's not Kyler Murray, but when he gets out and gallops, he picks it up. He's got some wheels, and he just feels like he knows. He just can feel it and he can do it. But I feel like he should do it more. I really do. And I think, especially with some of our O-line problems that we've had, that if he can just either, more design rollouts or just take off. I mean, we saw it. I think the last drive, he ran twice. I mean, we obviously know the last one, but so he got out there
converted a big first down doing it too.
Big first down, and he's done it. Is that something we should see? We got to see more, and that can relieve some pressure of that O-line, just giving that another look. What do you think, man? Because I like when he gets out there and uses his legs a little more, and it just seems to be successful.
I would love to see them start kind of doing more of the boot action, but to do that properly and to move him, you have to be able to play it from under center. And because the problem, and this is what I noticed in the San Francisco game, that wasn't a problem as much as it was in previous weeks, was because they did more stuff under center. And then when they went to the drop back game out of gun, Gino had more of a pocket to step up to. And I'm going to give Olu a lot of credit for that, because Olu did a really good job anchoring. I've watched the all 22. Olu was and I can't believe I'm really saying this because I didn't think I'd say this. Olu was a massive upgrade over Connor Williams. Yeah. Connor Williams this year was not the center that he had been with the not the Rams, with the Miami Dolphins. He never looked comfortable coming back from that injury. And that was something I was always skeptical of when the whole thing was saying he was going to start week 1 and he's coming off this injury. I was like, well, he's never been a big anchor guy. So like, how is he going to handle it? And that's what teams did. They bull rushed him and they'd really bring pressure. Olu stood up. Like, he had a very clean passer rating for a center that started. Like, he finished, I think, with a PFF grade. And again, take PFF with a grain of salt, with an 80 overall grade. That's because Olu played well. He almost was a 70 in the pass, and I think he was an 83 in the run game. Like, he was really a huge upgrade significantly over what we had gone. And you could see Gino was able, like on the scramble for the touchdown, Gino was able to slide, step up, and take off. And that's been the problem for Gino a lot of times. When he's wanted to use his legs, he's had to kind of almost go out the back door, and he gets, stressed and tackled, and problems have arisen. But I agree with you. I would like to see them move the pocket more with Gino. Let him use his legs. Let him move things to the outside, and stress the defense. Make them have to slide and rotate their coverage across the field, because he's all of a sudden booting out to his right side. And it also gives your receivers a little bit more area to operate in the zone coverages that they're seeing, because they can kind of sit down in zones. And that's some of the times when he did move and get outside the pocket, you saw JSN sit in these zones, in these pockets. Like JSN to me, and we've heard some Seattle media people say he's the number one receiver in the NFL right now. I'm not going to go that far. What I'll say about JSN is he's probably one of the best zone beating receivers in the NFL. When it's zone coverage, JSN knows exactly where to go and sit and make himself an open target for teams.
Yeah, I mean, speak on JSN a little bit because, man, I mean, hey, it's great. You and I talked about, hey, listen, DK came back last game. It didn't take away from JSN as far as like, okay, now we're just going to force feed DK. Ryan Groves back to, the same old thing because I got my guy back. JSN put up more yards, but also just like you said, beating that zone. I mean, he was big time in that last drive. Couple huge pickups, right? And that's what he's going to give you. You feel like he could be that guy where it's like you got that, and we saw the game before against the Rams that he can, they extended it, right? They went over the top with him a little bit, the corner routes and all that stuff. Oh man, I mean that's something like us talking about like Olu's the center. We got our center now for the next 3-4 years. I mean, it's such a small sample size. Before the 2 games, we were like, what's going on with JSN? Like, yes, he's had a few good games, and yes, I think he's going to be a really good receiver. I am not saying he is the best receiver right now. He's had a couple really good games. I still think DK is our number one receiver. I think he's still that guy that teams have to scheme around the most. I just think he's that physical presence. Look, if JSN becomes that 1-2 punch and we can have both these guys operating and being successful in this offense, that's what we want, man. And that's what you and I talked about going into the last season, that this is potential the new 1-2 punch as Tyler gets older and, kind of goes off into the sunset, and especially with that big contract. And look, Tyler on this team's awesome. And we remember Tyler taking tops off himself and doing all this stuff. He's still savvy, still a veteran, and he's probably great for a guy like Jason in that locker room this year too. So, but moving forward, yeah, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see JSN and you're going to see DK, and man, that's what we want to see. I just want to see him continue just to, Ryan Grubb, if he can do what he did last week and incorporate both these guys, that's a recipe for success, man.
No, it totally is. And, that's the matchup we're kind of playing against this week. We're playing against a team that has some things they do well that don't match up great for us. But overall, if the Seahawks come out and play the way they did versus the Rams for a majority of that game, the same way they played against the 49ers, and you limit your mistakes. That's the thing that truly, if you look at Seattle, and a lot of games they've lost this year where it's been one-score games, it's their mistakes that have come back and killed them. The interceptions, like last week, when the third quarter, when Geno threw that pick, I went, this is not that pick. You can't throw that right now because of where you are in the field. Now, Geno came back, and he made some phenomenal plays down the stretch of that game in that quarter, and the defense bent but didn't break and only gave up a field goal. If they give up a touchdown in that situation, this game's totally different, and we're potentially having a different conversation today on the show. So that's the one thing I want to see. I want to see those mistakes mitigated and those obvious mistakes. Like, yes, you're going to have batted balls that get picked. That's not the issue for me. It's when it's blatant, or you're going to have fumbles, or you're going to have all these different things that sometimes just happen. But try and mitigate them the best you can. And so if Seattle can do that, I don't see a reason. Like, I don't look at the Cardinals and go, they're light years ahead of where Seattle is. They are basically kind of what Seattle wants to be, in a little bit of a sense, of a team that has gone through a coaching change. Last year they did their transition, and now they're starting to ascend a bit with their new coaching staff. Maybe we can fast track that. Maybe this win versus the Niners last week will help fast track that process here in Seattle, because Seattle does have a more talented roster in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think it's the case where, because this division is the way they are, and you talk about fast tracking, I think the biggest way you beat this team tomorrow, if you win a division, I know we're jumping ahead, but it's for the taking. You got the Arizona Cardinals 2 of the next 3 weeks. So it's, in a way, I mean, the Cardinals can say the same thing, but we control it, right? We control it. What we do, we have division games coming up. We have the Rams still. So yeah, this is a situation where if you win, you make the playoffs. That is a huge uh confidence boost, a fast track boost, and you're still the one thing I've noticed, we can criticize John and all this kind of stuff, and he deserves criticism. But what they've done in season, we talked about how poor some of the offseason moves have been made, and there was maybe some factors for that. But we look at some of the moves they made and how to say, maybe with combination, obviously working with Mike McDonald saying, look, I need linebackers. Okay. This was a nice dart you threw at the board, not working out. We got to do something. They get Ernest. Then they say, look, we like this guy. We like this young kid. Let's start him. Let's Dotson, it didn't work. The midseason things are working out nicely. Kobe Bryant, right? Nice. So that's to me a positive approach. And it talk about fast track. They understand that they have holes that they need to clean up. And I think with Mike having a clear vision of how he wants his defense to look and his team to look, that they've made some nice adjustments right now. How does that work on the offensive side of the ball in the offseason? Yeah, but look, if you can come out and compete this whole year, it's just going to help you get to where you want quicker. Because you like we mentioned earlier, like if this was just a dead season at this point, yeah, you're evaluating talent, but to get the guys motivated to really see and evaluate talent, you want to be in the mix competing. Like every game right now matters. So how is Tyrese Knight, responding to that? Not in a garbage time game where, well, we're out of it. Let's just kind of see how he does. This is meaningful football. And so you can really evaluate it quicker when this team's in every game, man. Give me some give me like another key matchup, then we'll jump to some keys of the game. What's a key kind of one-on-one matchup that you think, okay, look, this is going to be fun to watch. We got to win this key.
DK versus Buda Baker.
Nice.
Buda Baker is going to follow DK and shade that side of the field. He always has. It's going to be a hell of a matchup. They're both physical guys. They're both, kind of spark plugs for their teams. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, and it's going to be interesting to see. Like, realistically, the guy that in this receiving core, in my opinion, should have the biggest game is Tyler Lockett, because of how the Cardinals are going to want to have to take away JSN. They're going to want to take away DK. Tyler should have a day. Now, that's something I'm waiting to see from Tyler this year. I'm waiting to see a signature Tyler Lockett game that we've been so used to. Like his game a couple years ago, we had 20 catches for 15 yards, or 15 catches for 20 targets for 200 yards and 3 scores. Like, Tyler has been a thorn in the Cardinals side for years, and maybe we get a signature Tyler game tomorrow. So that's kind of the matchup I'm interested in, is DK in this receiving core versus that secondary of Arizona, and to see how, they're able to take advantage of some of these younger guys that are in that secondary. The one thing I'm going to say about, John Schneider, and just to kind of go back to that topic you were just on a little bit there, Ryan, I've kind of had a new kind of look on John Schneider this year and what he's going through with this switching of the coaching staff and everything. The linebacker acquisitions are pretty damning this year, Baker and Dodson. Like, the fact that we moved off both of them by the midseason point, are pretty damning. But the thing I'll say is, you got to kind of look at it from a different perspective than football. It's like you're with a girl for 15 years and then you break up with her and you start seeing a new girl, and sometimes you forget that it's not your ex, it's this new girl. They don't like this restaurant or whatever. Sometimes you get in the habit. And John and Pete have been working together for so long that I think part of it was John was kind of like, oh yeah, I know what linebackers to get. Don't worry about it. I got this. And I don't know if he totally took in Mike McDonald's preference in some aspects. Like, he maybe heard what Mike was saying, but didn't really listen to what Mike was saying. And I think that's what you're seeing now is, like, you look at Ernest Jones in comparison to Dotson and Baker, and it's like, holy crap, this is totally different than what we were expecting. Like, this guy isn't even as close to the same skill set. He's better in this, he's better in that. Like, the impact he's made. They went from being the 27th run defense up into that Buffalo game. And then since we've had Ernest Jones, they've turned into the 6th best run defense in 3 weeks. That's something that you can look at and you go, well, damn, like, that's quite a vast improvement. And so I think that's one thing John's going to learn is, like, this isn't Pete Carroll anymore. This isn't like you can just assume because you know what he's done and you know the scheme and you know this, that's going to work. You have to listen to the new person until you guys get comfortable. And that's where this offseason coming up will be so crucial, is for John to kind of go back to what it was like when he first worked with Pete and listen to everything Mike McDonald's saying. And these are the pieces I need, John. Go get me this guy right here that I've circled. Go get that guy, not someone that's similar that you think fits my scheme. Go get the guy I'm asking you for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Guys, keep pouring in the comments and questions, but we want to get to some of these here coming up in the latter part of the stream, man. So just fire away. We really want to see what you guys think, man, because later in this show here, we're gonna fire off a score, a prediction. Guys, put in a prediction, man. Give us some scores too. We got our own scores, but want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of this matchup? What's a score? Do you think the Hawks are finally going to, clean some stuff up at home? We talk about it because you look at the remainder of the season. They don't have as many home games as road games. Hey, man, right now that doesn't matter. I mean, right now, until they can show us that they can take care of business and get home field advantage back to where it should be, right now, man, it's like, we feel more comfortable on the road. I mean, we went into Santa Clara that we were like, oh man, they got to go on the road and play the Niners. I mean, I know that we just mentioned, Ernest Jones, new linebackers, we're getting better at the run, but man, at home, yes, we had different linebackers, but we were missing some pieces. But man, we just haven't been good at home. So, man, right now there's just no advantage. We got to get that. We got to get back, right? We got to make home field at least mean something. We're not talking about let's get back to the LOB days where it's unstoppable in our house, but let's just make it where there's some advantage to come into our house. So that's going to be a thing, man. So yeah, guys, get your score predictions in. And then let's talk about some keys to the game. Because I'll start it off right now. We mentioned it. One of my keys, one of my biggest keys to the game is, again, just having a very clean game from Geno Smith. He was close last week. But again, just like that pick when you were like, why? Like, what were you seeing? And again, that's the only thing we're questioning, like that, the decision making of like that. And the one thing we give him credit for is that he had a short memory, went back, cleaned that up, came back out, and then, like it never happened. But again, those can be costly, and we got to have, that's got to be a thing where, look, if interceptions happen because, a DB makes a hell of a play or whatever, you can sort of live with some of that, but it's the poor decision makings where, man, you can't do that. That has to be cleaned up. That moving forward, we have to have that cleaned up. So I'm looking for a clean game from Geno and to really give us a chance to take care of business at home. I think he's got to just, I don't know if it's the pressure of being at home right now to say, we talk about the pressure of him against the Niners and getting that monkey off his back. He's got to be feeling some pressure kind of ending this losing streak at home too. And so that's where you got to see, listen, because sometimes when you're putting too much pressure, that's when you tighten up, you make some poor decisions. So that's what I'm looking for. Clean game out of Geno.
Yeah. One of my keys to victory is establishing a run game. Get it going again. This is an opportunity. Yes, the Cardinals have a pretty good defense, but you can take advantage in this run game. Get Ken Walker going, get Charbonnet going. And that's not saying I need Ken Walker to have 120 yards on the ground. But overall, as a team, they should have 120 yards on the ground, 130 yards on the ground, split up between whether that's Geno for 20 yards using his legs and Ken Walker between 70 and 80 yards on the ground on, 14 or 15 or 20 touches. And Charbonnet in there with, 15 or 20 yards on like 2 or 3 carries. Like that is, kind of what you want to see from this run game. And I think if they can do that and you can establish a run game, you can control the game flow and really put that pressure on that Arizona offense, which hasn't necessarily been explosive. They've been consistent, but they haven't been explosive. And so that's where, for me, I think if you can get the run game going and control that, it's going to be big for Seattle in this game.
Yeah, no, it'd be nice to sort of, like you said, I think Ken was averaging 4 yards a carry last game, and you're like, yeah, it's better. Let's get it a little better. So, if they can just sort of improve on that, maybe get a little more creative, some of the the run plays and just get Ken, just because he's a talented guy. A lot of people recognize him around this league. We got to be more consistent and get him really, putting up some numbers for this offense and just taking pressure off everybody, man. Like, another key for me is just getting that front seven and getting some pressure. I know we got to stop the run, so it's a combination, but getting Kyler uncomfortable, because if we can get out to a little bit of lead and then just put it on him, I know we our pressure rates have been pretty good. We're not getting home, so that's going to be interesting. But getting pressure, but at the same time, um, not letting Kyler get loose on the outside, not cheating on the edges, like, stay home, because, at some point we talk about James Conner, we talk about how it's a little different looking offense, but they're still going to set up where, okay, it's time for Kyler to get loose a little bit. So that's going to be a key. So that pressure, but at the same time, setting the edge, not letting him get loose because of, missing those assignments of where you're supposed to be. So I think that's going to be another big key to this game, and really kind of shutting down that offense.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. You can't let Kyler extend the play. And I think Derek Hall, Boy Mafe, if Draymond plays like he did last week and has been playing the last few weeks, he started to become more of a factor against the Rams and against the 49ers here. If you're able to bottle up Kyler and force him to stay in that pocket, shut down the run game, you're going to have some pretty good success, I think, against this Arizona team. Now, that's not an easy task. That's a pretty tall task to do. But I think the way that this defense has been taking pride in what they've been doing, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to point one thing out. Ever since that scuffle, Jaron Reed and Derek Hall, where everyone thought the whole world was coming to an end, and people thought it was, the end of the Seahawks and they were falling apart, they've been a better unit. They really have been a better unit. I think that's part of Jaron Reed's leadership, and he mentioned it in his press conference this week, that he's trying to bring that LOB mentality back to this defense in a way with these younger guys of, get feisty at practice, push each other, go that extra, mile at practice, and it'll pay dividends on game day. And I think that's what you're seeing from him, Ernest Jones, Julian Love, some of these guys, Witherspoon, like all of a sudden, Devin Witherspoon versus the 49ers, it was like a renaissance, a reawakening to his rookie season. Like, he played phenomenal in that game. He was playing with his hair on fire. And that's kind of what you want to see the Seahawks defense do, is let these guys that are your weapons go be your weapons.
Yeah, well, I think, we were raving about that in camp, right? The whole thing where all the fights were happening. Mike was letting them play. Just don't cross a line. There's a line. It's kind of fine line. Just don't get hurt. But Mike loved it. And then it was like, hey, and we loved it. And we said, let this carry into the season, because that's what you need. You need that at practice, because that's going to carry over to the game. But like you mentioned, maybe you just didn't have some of those right guys in certain positions. Now you bring in an Ernest Jones. Maybe, because we know Spoon, like, that's built in Spoon. Spoon has that. It just has to be unleashed. Now you have like guys like Ernest Jones and Jaron Reed talking about what he's talking about. Now all of a sudden Spoon's like, okay, wait a second. Yeah, this is easy. It's in me. I'm unleashing it. And Ernest Jones, the second he came in this building, says, listen, I'm a dog. Like, that's what you're getting here. That's the thing. You talk about the LOB. You look at this defense, say, well, who would fit in? Just personality wise. Devin Witherspoon, Ernest Jones, two guys that come to mind and be like, yeah, those are kind of like mentality wise, and that's what you need on defense. And that's why I'm high on Ernest Jones too, not just what he brings at the position, but the mentality of what you need to just be a game-wrecking defense. And that's why we're so high on Spoon, and we talked about a guy like Reek Wallens, like, maybe that's not Reek. And maybe, we've had guys on like Rob Staten being like, yeah, he's a 5th-round pick. Maybe that's who you might get. He's a streaky guy. He's going to be who he is, a little more laid back. He'll have some big plays because, his ability with his athleticism and his size. But you're not maybe getting to get the whole package all the time. And look, Devin Witherspoon, 5th overall pick, you expect a lot, but he has that dog in him too. So yeah, to bring that to the table and that attitude, is going to go a long way for the squad, man. So I'm looking forward to Spoon. I think, yeah, another key for me is just Spoon having another just all over the place game where, his name's getting called left, right, and center, because when he's a factor, things seem to happen. Obviously the tipped he got right in there, broke that up, and popped that ball up to Hankins in the mix. Another huge pressure on Purdy there, hitting that. Like he was all over the place. So I want to see another game. I don't want all of a sudden be like, man, where's Spoon? Like we've been talking. That's where maybe now he's coming alive. I think that's going to play dividends too. So yeah, I'm looking for a big game from him. Yeah. Any more keys, or do you want to jump
No,
to?
but what I'm going to do right now before we kind of get into our chats is I'm going to throw two graphics up on the board here, just kind of giving you guys an insight on what the playoff situation looks like for Seattle. We're getting to that point now. We got to figure out kind of where we sit. So I'm going to share a couple here just so everyone's got an idea. So this right here, guys, is a graphic of NFC playoff chances. So basically going into week 12, so this week of the season, you can see our Seahawks are sitting right here. They're currently at a 20%, chance of making the playoffs. If they lose, so this is what this graphic down here at the bottom is. If they lose, it drops to 8%. Like that kills them if they lose this Sunday. If they win, however, this bumps it up to almost 40%. You're at about a 38% window there. So that's how crucial this game really is. And you look at the Cardinals, if they lose, they drop down and we're almost neck and neck with them. The Niners, who have lost everybody since this last game, Purdy's out, Bosa's out. They say Purdy might be out the next 2 weeks from a shoulder injury. They drop all the way down. So if Seattle wins, it truly is control your own destiny going forward. And that's going to be the biggest thing. If Seattle can at least win their 2 games versus the Cardinals, and that only leaves 1 game versus the Rams left at the end of the year for the division, Seattle puts themselves in complete control of the NFC West. The other graphic here that I'll just put up on the screen, and let me get to it. It's a little bit different. It's just going to show us what's most at stake kind of a thing for Seattle and give you the little bit more of a breakdown of the percentages here. So here you go. So you look at this is NFC or an AFC kind of mix, but chances with a win. Seattle jumps up to, like we said, that 36, 38%. Chance with a loss of 8. The leverage is 28. That's massive. Like that is a massive swing for Seattle, depending on if they win or lose going forward. So we got to be able to, seal this deal off, win this game versus the Cardinals. But I don't think the Cardinals are a team that we have to look at and go, we can't beat them twice. We've got a game in between with the Jets. And we've had some pretty good success with the Cardinals as of late. And I think Seattle's maybe found their groove and found kind of their identity a little bit on defense, and offense is coming along. And I think, you got to think Abe Lucas is back potentially to play the full game this week. Then he gets another week if he gets through this clean, and you get the Jets. And by that second Cardinals game, he could be fully back to being Abe Lucas that we know and love. And maybe by that time, too, Olu's more comfortable and this O-line starts to gel. And you're looking at a different situation altogether. So, it's going to be kind of a challenge to ask them to win 2 games against the Cardinals. But I don't think it's something where if we were asking them to win 2 games versus the 49ers, it's comparable.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I want to throw this up just right here, getting into a couple of comments here and stuff like this. What is going to be the expectation for the rest of the season? Win the division, playoffs, missing the playoffs. I know there's going to be some hard discussions this offseason and a reset of the cap. I'll let you answer this too, but I think the expectation for the Hawks is make the playoffs. I mean, like we talked about, this is anybody's division. You just mentioned it's not out of the realm that we couldn't beat the Cardinals twice. Obviously we got them and the focus is tomorrow. But look, if they lose tomorrow, then I think the expectations will be different. It's gonna depend on this game. If we win this game, then absolutely it's winning the division and making the playoffs. And I think you and I talked about, I think that's really the only way to make the playoffs is winning your division right now. So yeah, if they win tomorrow, absolutely it's focus on the playoffs, and then they'll deal with what offseason and move. Obviously there's going to be some decisions being made with some of the key guys, but as far as season's concerned, yeah, you win tomorrow, it's full on, all in playoffs. Let's see how far we can go.
I think for me, it's going to be a cop-out answer and not really directly answer Ian's question. I'm still treating this season as a transition. So
Sure.
winning the division and playoffs, missing the playoffs, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there for this team at this point. I do agree with the second part of Ian's statement here. There's going to be hard discussions this offseason and a reset of the cap. And it's going to be, I'll put it this way. I think if this team has an above 500 record, so 9 wins and above, I think there's a very good chance you see the entirety of this coaching staff come back. Now, if this, we struggle on and off, the offense never really gets it going or whatever, I think there's a higher probability there may be some changes. I don't know if it means Ryan Grubb's out, but I think there could be a Scott Huff is moved on because if the O-line still is a massive issue. But I'm still in transition with this team, and I'm just each week you take it for what it is, and it's going to be a team that's going to give you some awesome highs, like last week beating the 49ers in Santa Clara, and it could be a team that gives you some really shitty lows, like when we played the New York Giants, where it was like a game we should have won and we choked it away. So that's kind of where I look at this team. I'd love to say division and playoffs is the expectation, but I just can't go there right now.
I mean, I think for me, I think you can have both. Like, I agree with what you're saying. Like, I think you can treat it as a transition year, but making the playoffs, just like we mentioned, just helps you accelerate the confidence, the team, how the team looks, what we might need to do in the offseason, opposed to winning 9 games and missing the playoffs. I still think you can do both. And so I'm not sitting here saying, look, if we miss the playoffs, it's a failure of a season or it's a disappointing season. I think, like you said, you take it game week by week. You're seeing what this team's doing. You're obviously confident what you've seen the last couple of weeks with the defense and the O-line look better. Abe Lucas back, Olu. But I think if you're the Seahawks and you win tomorrow, yeah, you that those guys in the locker room, Mike McDonald, they're not thinking, hey, it's transition year now. They're now thinking we're going out and competing for this division. I think because it's just in your grasp, like it's right there. So just like when we were 7-9 and made the playoffs, I think it was like, hey, they went in and knocked off the defending champs. And it was like, okay, and hey, man, let's go in and win the next game. That team wasn't ready, and you lost the next round. But man, was it sure ever something to build on, and that culture all of a sudden was changed, and you were like, whoa, like we just saw one of the greatest runs of all time. Like there's something special here, and so I think that just gives you more of an opportunity. If you did make the playoffs, anything can happen. Something magical happens, and you're like, 2025 you can get excited about and you got some building blocks and maybe we shore this up. But and as far as Ryan Grubb's concerned, I'll say this. I think if you don't see improvements of some of the play calling, and even if we make the playoffs, it'd be hard to see him go. But if we win 9, it all depends what Mike wants to do, but he's got to definitely show, I think, more, and maybe he will. But so far, I think the jury's out on him.
I wouldn't
it's a tough
say
one.
so. I'm gonna kind of jump on this a little bit. I don't know if the jury's out on Ryan Grubb. I think you got to also look at. I would look more at Scott Huff as the O-line coach, and I think that's a bigger thing. Is how much can you actually call because of that O-line. That O-line has been so bad. And like you saw last week, the more as that game went on versus the Niners, you started to see more things come out because it was like, oh, we can actually hold up. Like we're not – Geno got sacked 4 times. A couple of them I would say are on Geno for taking the sack, but one of them was Charbonnet picked Abe Lucas on Nick Bosa, which was such a bad look. Like that was just like, dude, get the hell out of the way of Abe Lucas taking on Bosa.
Bad look.
There was another one where Geno held on to the ball too long and I think caused the sack with Charles Cross. So there's 2 of them right there where you're like, okay, like the line held up enough. Like Geno, like that last drive, like Geno was dealing. And that's the thing with Ryan Grubb. I think the better question will be after 2025, what this offense looks like. If it's midway through 2025 and we're still seeing some of these same issues and they've done improvements to the offensive line and it's still not gelling, then I think you have a question exactly to what you're saying. Ryan Grubb needs to go. He's not transitioning to the NFL as well. But he does have some really innovative stuff that you, for the first
He
time, I
does.
don't look at Seattle's offense and go, okay, cool. Like, we have no concepts to actually handle teams. It's more of a shit, our O-line can't hold up and guys are running open and we're missing them because we don't have the time to get them the ball. So it'll be interesting, but I'm going to throw one up here right now from
I'll say this
Gary.
real quick too, and I agree with what you're saying. It just, yeah, I was because I watched that Pittsburgh game on Thursday night, and you know, there's a lot of people in Pittsburgh. We talk about Arthur Smith, not happy with some of the stuff he's been doing. So, you know, I don't think you're going to be perfectly happy with your offensive coordinator because, you know, he's under a microscope when you're watching that offense. Like you watch that Pittsburgh game and some of the stuff they were doing, like, you know, and you know, like I not that I want to talk about the Steeler game, but you know, taking Russ out and throwing Justin Fields in, and then he's throwing, like, it was just
It was weird.
weird decisions, right? So
Yeah.
I think that even if he was here and you mentioned the O-line and how much can you do, we might be saying the same thing about him if he was our offensive coordinator. So I agree with you.
True.
I think a lot of things sort of have to, you know,
The
like
O-line's
you
got to
said,
get sorted. That's the
yeah,
biggest.
and you know what? The positive thing, like we said, if Abe can stay healthy long term, that would be massive. And then it's a couple. Then you can focus on just not revamping the whole thing. Like bring it, like you and I talked about, bring in a veteran guard that's been in the NFL. That's, you know, a good guard. Doesn't have to be an all-star, but a good guard that can gel with the rest of the guys and just bring in that experience. Because when you look at this O-line, Charles Cross, Abe Lucas, Olu, like it's a young line, you know, and Anthony Bradford. Like if you bring in a veteran guy that's been in this league that can play, I mean, that can change a lot of things. So, you know, again, interesting in the offseason. But yeah, let's get to this next one here.
So Gary, who, you know, love Gary, thank you for joining us across the pond there, sir. He says the Cards game is very effective and will be challenging for the Hawks to stop their run game. I assume is what he's talking about. If they contain the run, it'll give them a good chance of winning this game. Totally agree. Like the Seahawks have to stop the run, and then he goes on to say, James Conner has more broken tackles than any other running back, and this is what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, he's a dog.
He's a dog, and he's going to run through
down.
you, and he's going to, you know, you look at what he did last year against us. Like, he was a problem for our defense to handle.
Yeah.
We got Matt in here, Matt Simmons. Our offense, I feel, will be fine. The biggest key to win will be, do our linebackers stop the run again? Go Hawks.
Yeah.
Again, totally agree. Like, this is going to be the main thing. Can the Seahawks stop the run? And this is what's been our challenge for years, is we can't consistently do it. We've done it the last 2 weeks against two teams that have diced us in the run game for years. So it's something that, you know, hopefully we can keep going this week versus the Cardinals in another divisional game. Because if you look at what I'd say both the Niners, the Rams, and now the Cardinals have done, is they built teams that are tough, that are physical, and that can run the football, because that is something we have struggled with predominantly the last 5 years, is our run game, or run defense, I should say. So It'll be interesting. We got another one here from Gary. If this O-line unit can stay healthy for the rest of the season, it gives them a chance to build chemistry and continue to improve.
Oh, you there?
Can you hear me now? I'm having a
Yeah, he's back. Technical difficulties, guys. Yeah, no, we got you.
So no, what I was going to say is, if Olu can continue to grow and cement that center spot, and you have Sundell as a backup who looks like a very viable backup option, you've got some young talent there with Lamea, with Haynes, if he can get together. Like, Haynes may go through what Olu's gone through in a little bit, and this is, again, me projecting a little bit on Olu, but if Olu can be a good center, I'm not saying great, I'm saying good, above average center, and kind of anchor that line there. You look at what it took him. It took him a year. It took Olu a year of an off season to get right. Maybe that's what Christian Haynes needs, because a lot of people want to write Christian Haynes off. Christian Haynes came out of UConn. He came out of a smaller program. He might need an NFL offseason and an NFL weight room to get himself properly acquitted, because you can see that there is skill there. It's not like he's deprived of skill. It's just, I don't think he has some of the technique and weight yet to handle some of these bigger NFL dudes. The one guy for me that I don't want to see on this O-line next year, and you know, people may think that he's going to all of a sudden jump. I don't want to see Anthony Bradford. Anthony Bradford to be a backup for me, like when we had Bowie and Alvin Bailey, or not Alvin Bailey. I can't remember if it was a Bailey that we had at some point with the Seahawks O-line in the early like Russell Wilson era. A guy that you can play for a game in a pinch, that'll come in and it'll be okay for like one game, but not someone that you're relying on to play 5 or 6 games or a season. Because Anthony Bradford, he's currently ranked the 73rd guard out of 77 in the NFL. There's only 32 NFL teams.
Yeah.
Like, he's worse than some teams' backups that have had to play snaps. And that to me is just a very damning thing. Like, yes, he looked a bit better in the San Francisco game, but I don't want to write anything off saying Anthony Bradford's going to be, some savior and he's going to have some renaissance. I think Anthony Bradford is what Anthony Bradford is, and he has moments where he'll have like 2 or 3 good plays, and then the rest of the game he's going to make you want to pull your hair out because he's just getting his ass kicked.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, and yeah, that's just going to go into the offseason. Hopefully we address those things, but yeah, that's going to be a chip. But I mean, at least we can sit here and be a little more confident just because Abe Lucas is back and Olu looked good. So let's see another one for him, man. What's we got, doing these preview shows. We're talking about like, okay, we're gonna predict not a game ball because that's after the game, but just, you want to jump in on this one first?
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one from Matt here just quickly
before we jump into the next
our little segment. Matt says, I love what Olu did last week versus the 49ers, but the 49ers didn't blitz much. I'm excited to see how he calls out assignments on the line against a team that will blitz more like the Cardinals. That's a very good point, Matt. The 49ers did not blitz a lot, so we'll have to see how he does handle communicating from that center position and is able to call out alignment changes and stuff and protection calls this week versus the Cardinals, because the Cardinals with Gannon there do like to blitz. That is one thing they do well, is they do blitz well. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that this week for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So anyways, yeah, we'll get into some of our we'll pick a game changer. I want to hear what you say, and for if you're seeing this guy and we need a guy on each side of the ball being that game changer, that if he's a game changer and in the locker room they give him a game ball, that's a pretty good indication that we might be successful. Give me your game changer on offense.
My game changer on offense for this week, I've got to go with Geno Smith.
Okay.
Geno's got to be dialed in again. And I know it's an easy one because he's our starting quarterback, but if Geno can ride this, whatever he's on right now from that second kind of fourth quarter of that 49ers game, and even the first, bit of that game where he was moving the ball and making some right decisions, if Geno can come out and play it like that, I think the Seahawks are going to be one of the hardest teams to stop in the NFL. Geno comes out and has a game on Sunday. I think this could end up being a lot of, or I shouldn't say, it shouldn't be close. I think Geno, if he plays his game and the defense holds up their end and stops the run and forces Kyler Murray, I don't think this will be much of a duel of quarterbacks. I think it'll be a domination of Geno.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think I'm just to switch it up, and obviously this would be huge. My game changer, Ken Walker. Like, I've thrown his name out before when we've talked about this, but talking about getting him going, and if he puts up yards, it's just going to help everything out, take pressure off everybody, and open up obviously the passing game that we've, you talk about two guys like DK and JSN, and then just what I want to see is this offense have a little more of a flow. And I think if Ken Walker is a game changer and he ends up getting a game ball, that's going to be a pretty good indication that this offense will flow a little better. Like, it just needs to be a little more flow to this offense. And I think it starts with Ken. I agree, Geno's got to be a big part of that, and he's got to have a clean game. But I want to see a game where that running game just gets a little more established and affects a little more of this game. So game changer for me on the offensive side of the ball, Ken Walker. Yeah, so that's what up here on Abe
Ryan's
Lucas.
Put in, he thinks Abe Lucas.
Well, for sure. Yeah.
That's another guy that we didn't mention in the game changer segment here. I think he definitely, Abe's a huge keys. And Gary goes, he wants K9 as well. And he says, great minds think alike, Ryan.
There you go. I mean, yeah, Abe Lucas, man, like, absolutely. We talked about him already a bit on the show. yeah, it starts and finishes in the trenches for sure. So, we saw what the difference of Abe making last week. So I think Abe's got to be that constant, just like Charles Cross is. Um, so it's kind of tough with the offensive line because it's like you just expect them to be good on every play, and if they give up a sack, you screwed up, right? And it's kind of one of those things where, yeah, the game ball. I mean, it's tough to be like, hey, Abe, here's your game ball. You just expect Abe to be there and be that just stability there. But yeah, obviously, just him being back is a game changer, So you can't argue with that. What about on the defensive side, man? Who's got to be your game changer over there?
Defensive side game changer for me is Julian Love.
Mm,
I with Trey McBride and the type of tight end that he is, Julian, I
yep.
think is going to get locked up in coverage with him a lot more than maybe people think. And I think Julian's got to have a big game. He needs maybe an interception, big hit, takeaway, something like that. I think that'll be crucial for the Seahawks defense. It'd be easy to pick, Ernest Jones or Derek Hall or something, but I want to see Julian Love shut down Trey McBride, as he's probably one of their top receiving option right now, and he plays that tight end role.
Yeah, no, I like that. My key is Spoon. And again, easy to pick Ernest Jones because I was thinking that Ernest has to have a game, a solid game. They're going to be coming right up there with Connor, but I think Spoon, just the effect he had on that 49ers game and just kind of being all over the place, he's got to be disruptive and just they might play him up on near line of scrimmage more. I think the Cardinals will attack it. So how does Spoon react and just change the game? Whether that's coming from the blitz or just disrupting, breaking up passes. Maybe a pick six. I mean, I think that's my game changer. I want to see another big game from Spoon and just really establish himself in his secondary.
Yeah, no, and Spoon's got to have that same impact that he did in this last game. So, no, I definitely like that game changer. Just looking in the comments here, Gary says, Ernest Jones is someone he wants to see have a big game and be the game changer for them. And I agree. Like I wanted to pick Ernest. I think he's an obvious guy that's got to have an impact game. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think all three of those guys, Ernest Jones, Julian Love, and Witherspoon, if they have big games, there's a good chance the Seahawks have a positive outcome on Sunday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, we're getting close, guys. Toss in some more comments. We'll get to them here. A few more minutes on the show, but also toss out your scores, man. Give me a prediction, man. What do you got here? At home, Cardinals, big time game, guys. Also, man, Cardinals coming off a bye, so just kind of in that same situation we were a week ago. So yeah, they're coming off a bye. See how the Cardinals react, but they're well rested. What do you got for a score?
Oh, this will be interesting. I'm going to go 31-20 Hawks.
Okay, yeah. I mean, what do you anything like close to the beginning? They come from behind. Is it just you just
I
got a
think
hunch
this
they're going to
game,
take care of business?
what I'm going to say is this. I think the first quarter and a half of this game is kind of close. And I think that, after that, I think Seattle starts to take control of this game. And I think going into that, coming out of the second half there, I think the Cardinals may, it may be going into halftime. I'll say it's like 17-10 for Seattle. And then I think after that, Seattle just puts the gas to the floor and kind of goes away from the Cardinals and is able to force the Cardinals into a more pass-heavy set. They come out and have a quick score. So now it's 24-10. I think there's a chance that Seattle then forces the Cardinals' hands to, kind of get more pass happy than maybe they want to. And you see Kyler maybe, have a couple turnovers at that point, and the defensive line can pin their ears back and go after Kyler.
Yeah, no, I like that assessment. I got them winning too. I think they're going to break the streak at home. I think they're feeling good. Even though the Cardinals are coming off a bye, I think it's one of those things where we're feeling really good coming off that win. And I think that I got the Hawks 24-15. I think the defense is I think they're gonna be consistent again. I know James Conner. I know they're gonna run the ball. But that's been the mantra. I mean, the 49ers want to run the ball, and they had CMC back. And whether you want to say, oh, he was CMC of last year, probably not, but you still CMC. And we still stopped the run against the Rams. And I could be completely wrong, but I think talking about the keys and I think we're confident right now how this group's coming together. Stopping the run's key. And then, like you said, then it's like, okay, pin your ears back a little bit, especially we have a little bit of a lead. Go after these guys, make Kyler put it on his shoulders. So I think the Hawks come out of here with a victory, man. So, and if they do, we are in first place and we are in control of our destiny.
And the rest of that NFC dude's got tough matchups. I think the Rams have the Eagles and the Niners have the who the Niners? Oh, Packers.
They got the Packers. And like you said, man, missing everybody. Man, it's good to see. So
it's that transition's occurring in the NFC West, and I think we're on the right side of it, going in the right direction. I'm just gonna throw in. We got one. We have a couple predictions here. So we've got Matt says 31-20, so very similar to myself. We've got Ryan in here. He puts, I'm going to say 27-17 Hawks. Abe Lucas has an angry game. Pass rush gets home. I would love to see an Abe Lucas angry game. That would make me so happy, Ryan. Definitely something I would love to see this weekend.
Yeah, and I think, too, it's just a matter of, like, Abe getting his legs under him a little more too, kind of coming back a second week. So, just give him an opportunity, a little angrier. I think he was just trying to keep up at the end there just to kind of say, okay, it's my first game back. But yeah, man, I want to see Abe just be mad and just hungry and you know what? Stay healthy.
Exactly. He can keep coming out.
That's my biggest hope for Abe.
Yeah, if he can keep coming out clean and it's just a conditioning factor, that's a bonus for the Hawks. And that was the one thing I was looking at this whole week when we were seeing injury reports is, okay, is it Abe? Is it knee? Is knee at all in there? And no, it was rest day, whatever it was. And then they came out and said, like, hey, it's his conditioning. Like, he's just not fully there yet. So yeah, I'm gonna think that's gonna be a good thing. But yeah, guys, we're really hoping we're pulling for another Hawks win to keep this kind of streak going, get the home record. We've got Dan VN coming on post-game live tomorrow. So, guys, 6 o'clock Pacific time. Come join in the chat. We'll have Dan VN, some Seahawks Forever on. It'll be a lot of fun. He'll be at the game, so it'll be fun to get his perspective on what's going on. And, Ryan, I'll let you say the rest of it.
Yeah, guys, that's going to be an awesome show. So, Dan VN's coming on post-game live. That's going to be awesome. So, guys, if you're tuning in today, make sure you tune in tomorrow later on in that evening to get involved with us there. Dan's awesome to have on the show, friend of the show. So it's gonna be good stuff. And guys, if you haven't already, make sure you sub to the channel. All that good stuff helps support it. And we can't wait to be on with you guys tomorrow. Chop up Hawks. Hopefully we're talking victory here. So that's it for us. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.